The Secret History of King Solomon and the 72 Demons. Part 1. The Forgotten Scrolls of Solomon. Before the kings and the prophets, before the temples and the wars, there was a man whose wisdom pierced the veil of heaven and whose voice commanded spirits bound in darkness. His name was Solomon. It begins not with glory, but with silence. After the death of his father, King David, Solomon ascended the throne of Israel as a boy. The people of the land expected a warrior, a king of blood and vengeance. But God had another plan. One night, under a sky soaked in stars, the Lord came to Solomon in a dream and said, "Ask what I shall give thee." Solomon did not ask for riches. He did not ask for victory. He did not ask for the death of his enemies. He asked for something far more dangerous, wisdom. And that was when heaven opened. But when heaven opens, so does hell. The seal of God. And the first visitation, Solomon's wisdom grew. He judged disputes no man could unravel. He spoke in proverbs that pierced the hearts of kings. Birds landed on his fingers. Beasts bowed before him. The winds whispered secrets in his sleep. One day, a black wind rose from the east. A presence followed it. Not a man, not an angel, a being, unclean. It entered the chambers of Solomon in silence. Its name was Ornias, a demon of torment. It harassed a young boy in Solomon's court by day and drained his life by night. The boy, near death, cried to the king. Solomon did not fear. He knelt. He prayed. And then heaven answered. The Archangel Michael descended, cloaked in fire and on light. He handed Solomon a golden ring engraved with the seal of God, a 5-pointed star within a circle. With this ring, Michael said, "You shall command the spirits of darkness. You shall build the temple of the Lord, not with mortal hands, but with powers bound by your word." From that day forward, Solomon could see them all, summoning the 72 spirits. Solomon, now armed with the divine seal, began calling the spirits one by one, not to worship them, but to subdue them. He summoned Ornias and cast him into a brass vessel. Then he demanded the names of others. Ornias, bound by the ring, obeyed. He revealed a secret list. There are 72 spirits who serve under the fallen king Belial. Each has a name, a form, a power, and a lie. They have ruled over man since Eden's gate was shut. But now they shall serve you. And Solomon, wise and brave, summoned them, one by one. The first demon, Baal, king of invisibility. Baal appeared in a cloud of sulfur and smoke. 3 heads, man, cat, and toad. He spoke in riddles and could render himself and others invisible. Solomon did not tremble. With the ring of God, he struck the air. Baal bowed and spoke, "I am the first, but not the last. The others are watching." The second demon, Agares, the earth trembler. Next came Agares, a duke riding upon a crocodile, carrying a hawk. He could make the earth quake and bring back the runaway. Solomon, with a whisper, placed Agares in chains of light, and thus the list grew. The hidden purpose of Solomon's power. It was not for pride that Solomon commanded demons. It was not for wealth. It was for construction. The temple of the Lord, as commanded by God, could not be built by human hands alone. It needed the spirits that once defied the heavens to now be used for holy purpose. So Solomon enslaved them, not by cruelty, but by divine law. They carved stones, moved mountains, melted metals. They sang psalms as they labored, weeping in torment. For they could not disobey the ring, the secret scrolls, as the demons obeyed. Solomon began to write. He recorded their names, their appearances, their powers, their weaknesses, their lies, their truths, their sigils, their infernal ranks. He called the scrolls the Ars Goetia, the work of sorcery. But Solomon hid these scrolls, for not all men are wise. He feared that one day a fool would find them and repeat what he had done, but not for God, for himself. But the demons whispered. As Solomon grew older, the spirits he bound began to whisper again. They praised his beauty, his intellect. They flattered him. They spoke of love and forbidden secrets. They offered knowledge of the stars, of magic, of women from strange lands. And Solomon listened. This was the beginning of his fall, to be continued in part 2. And Solomon fell in love with a woman whose gods had no face, whose altars bled in silence, and whose demons wore golden crowns. Part 2. The Fall of Solomon, when the wise became enchanted. The higher a man ascends, the deeper his fall becomes. For when a crown is kissed by heaven, it is also watched by hell. Solomon, the wise, becomes Solomon, the enchanted. It began with whispers, subtle, patient, familiar. The 72 spirits that once toiled beneath Solomon's will had not forgotten who they truly served. Though they bowed to the ring, their hearts were chained to something far more ancient, the rebellion of Lucifer. And Lucifer does not sleep. He waits. The woman from the east, she arrived draped in silk and shadow, a woman unlike any other Solomon had seen. Not because of her beauty, though she had it in abundance, but because of her eyes, eyes that knew too much, eyes that had seen the forbidden scrolls, eyes that had spoken to spirits willingly. Her name was never written in scripture, not exactly, but she was called the woman of Ashtoreth, a priestess of fallen gods, a daughter of enchantment. Solomon loved her, deeply, foolishly. The whisper of Ashtoreth each night, she came to Solomon's chambers, bringing incense, laughter, and questions. Why must the demons serve you? Do they not deserve mercy? What harm is there in knowing the deeper names of angels? Why does your God forbid so much, when knowledge is the only path to true divinity? Solomon, once the wisest of men, began to doubt, not God, but himself. He gave her a chamber in the temple, a throne, then an altar, then his ring, just for a moment, just to prove his trust. The ring was taken. That night, as he slept, Solomon's dreams were blackened. He woke to screams. The temple shook. The skies over Jerusalem turned blood red. The spirits, freed from their chains, roared across the land like wildfire. Their seals were broken. The scrolls of power were stolen. The temple was no longer holy, and the woman was gone. She had vanished with the ring. The journey into madness. Solomon tore his robes. He wept in the sanctuary he had built. No answer came. He wandered the desert barefoot for 40 days. His beard grew ragged. His lips cracked. No one knew him. The great king of Israel became a beggar. The wisest man became mad. And then, one night, in the wilderness, he saw a fire burning on a mountain. There, in the silence, a voice spoke. You were given wisdom to serve, not to command. You sought truth, but forgot the cost. It was the same voice that had spoken when he was a boy. It was the voice of the Lord. Restoration through suffering. Solomon returned to Jerusalem. The temple was still standing, but darker. He rebuilt the seals by memory, reciting the 72 names backward. He reforged the brass vessel. He found the ring again, not from the woman, but from the angel Uriel, who descended with thunder to remind him. The true seal is not on your hand, Solomon. It must be etched into your heart. One by one, Solomon rebound the spirits, not with pride, but with sorrow. This time, they did not resist. They recognized his repentance, and once again, they labored. But Solomon never smiled again. The final secret. Solomon's warning. Before his death, Solomon wrote a final scroll. It was not a manual, not a grimoire. It was a warning. To bind the spirits is to bind yourself. To speak with demons is to be heard by them forever. Use not the ring without prayer. Speak not the names without fasting. For the wisdom of heaven comes with the weight of suffering, and those who command must first know how to kneel. He sealed it in a jar, buried deep beneath the ruins of the temple, where only the worthy would find it. But legends say, the scroll was taken by a priest, by a knight, by a sorcerer, or by a secret order that still protects it to this day. The end of Solomon? Or the beginning of a greater mystery? Solomon died, but his name did not. It became a cipher among mystics, a code among alchemists, a prayer among the desperate, and a curse among the damned. Even today, there are those who call upon the 72 spirits of the Goetia, using names written in Solomon's hand. They believe they can control what Solomon himself could barely survive. They believe the power is in the name, but they forget. The true danger is not in summoning a demon. The danger is in hearing it answer. Part 3. The 72 demons. Names, powers, and the secrets they whispered to Solomon. Every name is a key. Every key opens a gate. And behind each gate waits something ancient, burning, and aware. The scrolls Solomon wrote, what would later be called the Lemegeton, or the lesser key of Solomon, contained more than records. They were maps of temptation. Each demon was not merely an entity. Each was an embodiment of a human weakness, of a forbidden knowledge, of a fallen virtue. And Solomon, by naming them, was not only binding them, he was understanding them, but in knowing, he also listened. Demon 1, Baal. Rank, king. Appearance, 3 heads, man, toad, cat, power. Invisibility temptation, hiding from consequences, the desire to be untouchable. Do you want to rule without resistance? Then let no man see your shadow. Demon 2, Agarez. Rank, duke. Appearance, elder riding a crocodile, carrying a hawk. Power, earthquakes, bringing back fugitives. Temptation, control over others' movement, manipulating loyalty. If you want them to return to you, make the earth shake beneath their feet. Demon 3, Vasago. Rank, prince. Appearance, a noble spirit with melancholic eyes. Power, reveals past, present, and future. Finds lost objects. Temptation, obsession with destiny and the past. What is buried in time? I can reveal, but can you bear the truth? Demon 4, Samagina. Rank, Marquee appearance. Little horse that transforms into a man. Power. Teaches liberal sciences. Speaks of souls who died in sin temptation. Pride in knowledge. Desire to command the dead. Would you not rule the afterlife as you rule the world? Demon 5. Marbas. Rank. President appearance. Lion-headed power. Reveals hidden things. Causes disease and heals it. Temptation. Power over life and death. Create the illness, then offer the cure. What greater power is there? Demon 6. Valifor. Rank. Duke appearance. Lion with a man's head. Power. Thievery. Manipulation. Charisma. Temptation. Gaining followers through deceit. Charm them. Use them. Then vanish like gold in fire. Demon 7. Aemon. Rank. Marquis. Appearance. Wolf. With serpent's tail and man's head. Power. Reconciliation between foes. Temptation. Creating conflict to later resolve it. Stir the waters. Then offer peace. They'll crown you savior. Demon 8. Barbados. Rank. Duke. Appearance. Hunter with horns. Power. Understands animals. Reveals hidden treasures. Temptation. Worship of nature and secrets beneath the earth. The trees whisper your name. King. Will you listen? Demon 9. Paimon. Rank. King appearance. Man-crowned. Riding a camel. Surrounded by musicians. Power. Philosophy. Arts. Hidden knowledge. Temptation. Intellectual pride. Why pray to heaven when knowledge is a throne? Solomon hesitated with Paimon, not because he feared him, but because Paimon spoke in rhythms too beautiful to ignore. Demon 10. Puer. Rank. President appearance. Lion with 5 legs in a circle. Power. Teaches logic, philosophy, healing. Herbs temptation. Belief that man can heal without God. There is no need for the divine when you possess the right remedy. And on it went, each spirit presenting Solomon with knowledge, wrapped in poison. Some taught how to manipulate kings. Others revealed how to become loved. Some showed how to curse an enemy silently. Others promised youth, immortality, godhood. But each came at a cost. The true nature of the 72 each demon reflected a distortion of God's own creation. Knowledge without humility, beauty without grace, strength without compassion, will without submission. And as Solomon recorded them, his soul grew heavier, his hair grayed, his eyes darkened, his voice deepened. Solomon's moment of crisis. He sat alone in his chamber, surrounded by brass vessels that throbbed and hummed with the groans of chained spirits. He asked aloud, "Have I conquered evil, or merely invited it to kneel before me?" No answer came, but one demon, the 33rd, Gop, whispered, "You have not chained us, Solomon. You have made us mirrors, and you are beginning to see yourself." The dangerous legacy Solomon's scrolls were hidden across time, but the spirits, they linger. For every time a man or woman desires power without submission, beauty without discipline, or wisdom without suffering, a name from the 72 stirs in the dark, and the whispers begin again. You thought the demons were bound forever, but what if I told you? They were released by men who wore white robes, prayed in secret, and called themselves Keepers of the Seal. Part 4. The Secret Brotherhoods Who Unlocked Solomon's Scrolls. The demons were never truly gone. They were waiting, in ink, in code, in ritual, in men. Centuries passed, empires fell, temples crumbled, languages changed, but the name Solomon endured. And so did the scrolls. Hidden, whispered, hunted. The escape of the scrolls legend says that before his death, Solomon gave one scroll to a stranger, a foreign traveler from the West. This man was not a king. He was not a prophet. He was a scribe, obsessed with patterns, obsessed with the stars. He vowed to keep the scroll safe. But humans are frail, and when he died, the scroll fell into the hands of men who did not fear the divine, but who craved power. The First Brotherhood, the Order of the Pentacle, born 3rd century BCE, Alexandria. Purpose: translation and activation of the Ars Goetia ritual tool. Obsidian ring engraved with an inverted seal of Solomon doctrine. To command the spirits, one must become what they obey. Downfall. All 13 members vanished in a single night after invoking the 39th demon, Malthus, in the catacombs beneath the Library of Alexandria. Their final scroll was found sealed in bone. The demon speaks the truth, but it is the truth that shatters the mind. The Second Brotherhood, the Sons of the Circle, born 11th century Jerusalem during the Crusades, founded by a disillusioned knight who discovered a chamber beneath the Temple Mount Discovery, the brass vessel of Ornias, sealed, humming, and still alive. Belief. The demons were ancient machines, pre-Adamic intelligences sent to guide evolution practice, engraving the 72 seals on armor and blades. Result: every knight who wore the seal eventually went mad. Their eyes burned blue before death. Their motto: in order to conquer darkness, we must become its architects. A chilling revelation. These orders believed Solomon's greatest mistake was not binding demons, but stopping. They believed if all 72 spirits were unleashed and synchronized, man could transcend mortality. They called this the Solomon Protocol, a ritual of activation involving fasting for 72 days, tattooing the 72 seals onto the flesh, reading the Goetia backward, in the tongue of angels, and invoking the names while looking into a black mirror beneath a blood moon. No one has completed it, or perhaps no one has survived to tell. The Third Brotherhood, the Keepers of the Veil, born, unknown, appearance, every age, every empire, cloaked in different names, mission, to contain the knowledge. They burned copies of the Goetia during the Yuan Inquisition. They infiltrated royal courts to block rituals. They created false grimoires to confuse occultists. They still exist. Some say they operate through monasteries. Others say they work within intelligence agencies. And some whisper they are the true reason certain texts can't be found, even on the darkest corners of the web. The modern sorcerers, the 20th century, saw a rebirth. Men like Aleister Crowley, MacGregor Mathers, and Eliphas Levi publicly invoked Solomon's legacy, boldly, without fear. They didn't just study the spirits, they dared to channel them. Crowley once wrote in his diary, "I have seen Baal. He is not a demon. He is a mirror. He showed me what I will become if I refuse to submit to anything but myself." Others followed. And today, some say the tech, elite, the music industry, and even certain governments are playing with the seals, wearing them, tattooing them, speaking them. What happens when you speak a demon's name? Solomon once warned, each name is a gateway. To speak it is to knock. To believe in it is to open. But to desire it is to welcome it. Names carry frequency. Sigils are not drawings, they are maps for energy. Each is a summoning circle, disguised as art. And every year, more are rediscovered, in jewelry, in logos, in dreams. The forbidden scroll that was never found. Solomon is said to have written one final scroll. It wasn't a list, it was a prophecy, a warning, a timeline predicting the exact generation in which all 72 spirits would be accidentally invoked again, one seal at a time, through fame, power, ego, vanity, lust, false peace. That scroll has never been found, but the signs are unfolding, and the 72, they are awakening. You saw the scrolls, you heard the names, but now, discover how one ring held the fate of mankind, and why it was lost again, on purpose. Part 5. The Hidden Seal. How Solomon trapped the 72 demons in one ring. Not all power is a sword. Some power is a circle, unbroken, eternal, and invisible to those who do not believe. The ring was not made by man. It was forged in fire, but not from this earth. It bore the seal of God, a celestial mark no demon could deny, not because it was divine ink, but because it was written in sound, a vibration older than time. The ring was not gold, not silver, not metal. It was light made solid, and it came from the hand of Michael, the archangel who bears the voice of God, the seal of Solomon. Not just a symbol. Modern images show a hexagram, a six-pointed star, but this was not the true seal. The original was a circle within a circle, filled with vibrating lines. Some scholars say it resembled a mandala. Others say it pulsed like a black sun. But it wasn't the shape that gave it power. It was the intention etched into it. Solomon's will was not enough. He had to align his mind, body, and soul to the will of God. Only then would the ring burn against evil. The first binding, Ornias. When Ornias, the vampiric demon, attacked the child in Solomon's court, Solomon pressed the ring to his own heart and said, "Not by my hand, but by his word. You are bound." The ring glowed. Ornias screamed. He fell to the ground, unable to rise. He was chained by a voice only the ring could echo, a voice the demon remembered from heaven, when he had been something else, something holy, the ring. As a prison, Solomon learned he didn't need 72 vessels. The ring itself could carry all 72 demons, not physically, but spiritually. Each time he summoned a new spirit, he pressed the ring against its sigil, spoke its name, aloud in reverse, and the ring absorbed a spark of its essence. But here's the secret. The ring did not destroy them. It stored them. It was a containment vessel, not a sword, because God's plan was not to annihilate evil, but to use it until the appointed time. The ring's side effect each time Solomon used it, a price was paid. His voice grew heavier, his thoughts more complex, his dreams darker. Some scholars say the ring was not just a prison, it was a lens. And through it, Solomon began to see the world not only through divine wisdom, but also through the eyes of the chained. The day the ring failed, it happened only once. When the woman of Ashtoreth held the ring in her palm, she whispered a spell not recorded in the Goetia, a chant passed down from Babylon, from Nimrod, from the tower, and the ring dimmed. The spirits stirred. The seal cracked, only slightly, but it was enough. Baal escaped. Paimon stirred. And Solomon, for a moment, lost control. The lesson was terrifying. The ring works only for those whose hearts are aligned with heaven. The moment you seek power for its own sake, it becomes a curse. The ring was buried. When Solomon was old and near death, he did something no one expected. He buried the ring, not in soil, but in time. He placed it inside a dream, locked behind 7 layers of spirit, soul, memory, and desire. To reach it, one must pass 7 tests. Sacrifice without reward. Silence in the face of mockery. Truth when it costs everything. Fasting until the body weeps. Forgiveness of one's enemies. The death of the ego. Submission to the divine will. Only one who completes all 7 will see the ring again. And even then, it will ask, "Do you seek me to serve or to rule?" If the answer is wrong, the ring will devour the seeker. The ring has been imitated, but never replicated. Many have tried. The Templars forged rings of gold. The Kabbalists tried to inscribe the names the Nazis, through the Thule Society, searched for the Black Ring of Solomon. Even modern occultists speak of rings in dream experiments, but none work. Because the true ring was not forged in matter, it was forged in covenant. Where is the ring? Now, 3 theories exist among modern mystics. The ring is still buried beneath the ruins of the first temple, in a sealed box made of brass and wood, guarded by a spirit that cannot be seen, but only heard when you are completely silent. The ring exists inside a bloodline, passed down genetically, not as an object, but as a spiritual inheritance. The descendants of Solomon unknowingly carry part of it in their dreams. The ring is hidden inside the word, meaning that scripture itself contains the pattern, and only those who read it with pure hearts unlock its energy. But the final possibility is the most terrifying. The ring has already been found and used, and the user does not seek wisdom, but dominion. You believed this was a story of the past, but the scroll speaks of a future moment, when Solomon shall return, not in body, but in spirit, and the 72 will rise one last time. Let us now open the most prophetic chapter of this story. This is where history folds into future, and the spirit of Solomon rises once again. Part 6. The Prophecy of Solomon's Return. The final binding of the 72. What has been, shall be again. What was bound, shall seek to be unbound. And he who once ruled by wisdom, shall return, not in body, but in spirit. The final scroll. Among the forbidden texts attributed to Solomon, one remains unconfirmed, spoken of only in whispers among mystics and apocalyptic scholars. They call it the Scroll of Ashes, not because it was burned, but because every time someone tries to read it, its ink turns to ash in their hands. Only those clothed in silence can hear it read from the inside, in dreams. It is said that in this scroll lies a prophecy, written not in time, but above time. A message to the future, to us. The return is not a person, it's an awakening. Solomon does not return in flesh. He returns as a frequency, a consciousness, a summoning of divine order that enters the hearts of a few rare individuals who are unattached to power, free from pride, drawn to truth more than comfort, haunted by dreams they cannot explain, whispered to at 3:33 a.m. by names they do not remember learning. They are the carriers, and when they awaken, they begin to see the seals again, in symbols, in architecture, in language, in their own bloodline. The prophecy speaks of 3 phases. Phase 1, the stirring of the 72. The spirits awaken, again, not in form, but in principles, false light masquerading as spiritual awakening. technologies that manipulate the soul, music and media that repeat hidden sigils, global leaders acting in perfect sync without knowing why. Each of these is a mirror of the original 72, rising in shadow. They will not appear with horns, but with smiles, not in rituals, but in algorithms. Phase 2. The children of the ring, a generation, will rise that seeks not to rule, but to rebuild. These are the children of the ring, not because they possess Solomon's artifact, but because they walk in the pattern he once mastered. They will heal with their voice, bind spirits through song dream in languages not of this world, recognize each other instantly without speaking. They will come from every continent. Many will be orphans. Many will have survived great trauma. All will carry an invisible mark. Phase 3. The final binding. There will come a moment, written in the scroll of ashes, where the 72 spirits will fully awaken in the world again, not as beasts, but as systems. Pride as global identity, greed as virtue, vanity as self-worth, deception as normal magic, as science, death as liberation. The world will not notice, but the carriers will, and they will be faced with a choice: to bind the 72 once more through sacrifice, truth, and suffering, or to join them and reign for a fleeting moment before the fire comes. A code embedded in time. The prophecy includes what some believe to be a timestamp. A number appears repeatedly in hidden Solomonic texts, 7-9-1. Interpretations vary. July 2nd, 2091. Psalm 72, 9-1. 7 years, 2 months, 9 days, 1 hour. Some say it's not a date, but a sequence of events, a pattern, and only those attuned to the original ring's frequency will decode it. The spirit of Solomon within you, here lies the deepest secret. The spirit of Solomon was never about power. It was about discernment. Not the ability to control darkness, but the ability to see through it, to judge rightly, to rule oneself before commanding others. And that spirit is not extinct. It moves today, hidden inside those who ask questions no one else dares to ask, see symbols others ignore, sense a war in the unseen, resist easy answers, carry both fear and wonder at the mysteries of existence. The final warning. The prophecy ends with a terrifying line, said to be the last thing Solomon ever wrote in the tongue of angels. The one who breaks the ring shall awaken that which even I dared not name. Many have speculated what that being is. Some say it's not one of the 72, but the first, the one who never answered to Solomon, the one Solomon never tried to bind, because it had no name, only a void, and that void watches. What if there was one spirit too powerful, too ancient, to be named? And what if its silence was not defeat, but patience? We now open the final forbidden door, the one that even Solomon feared to touch. Part 7. The One Demon. Solomon never bound. The secret of the unnamed power. Before the 72 spirits, before the stars, before even the angels rebelled, there was one. A presence. A watcher. A wound in the divine pattern. And it has no name, because names give limits. The hole in the scroll. Among all the scrolls of Solomon, there is one strange detail that scholars have noticed. There is a missing line, a deliberate blank. Scroll 7, line 13. The script jumps. A space is left, not torn, not faded, left open. A line. Solomon refused to write. Why? Because what he saw had no shape. The vision of the black flame in Solomon's final visions, while holding the ring and fasting on the roof of the temple, he experienced something unlike the others. It wasn't a demon. It wasn't a voice. It was a flame without light. A cold fire. A presence that spoke not in words, but in unbeing. He called it the nothing that watches. It did not try to flee. It did not resist the seal. Instead, it said, "You will not bind me, because I am what you left behind when you were born, the origin of the unnamed." While the 72 spirits are said to be fallen angels, elemental powers, or distorted virtues, this was different. Solomon believed it was older than rebellion. Before Lucifer fell, before man rose, before form was form, this being existed. He recorded no sigil, no name, no incantation. He simply wrote in trembling Hebrew letters, "Do not name the silence. Do not call the void. It waits behind all power." How it appears. Today, if the 72 spirits reflect lust, greed, power, control, then the unnamed one reflects despair that feels sacred, emptiness mistaken for truth, a love for nothingness, the seduction of ending it all, belief that nothing matters. Even God, its voice is not loud. It whispers in thoughts like, "Let go. Nothing is real. No one sees you. You are alone. Why try? Silence is better." And the terrifying part? It sounds peaceful. Solomon's silent terror. After that final encounter, Solomon wrote in the margins of his scroll, "I have bound kings of fire, beasts of water, voices of wind, and lords of earth. But this is not a being. It is a forgetting." He called it the anti-word, because while other demons lie, this one erases. The true purpose of the ring, it is believed now that Solomon's ring was not only to bind demons, but to shield the soul from the unnamed, to keep the flame within from going out. Because once a person falls into the grip of this presence, they do not become evil. They become numb, and numbness is the true path to darkness. Not rage, not wrath, but a world without feeling. This demon cannot be cast out. Exorcists say, you can cast out spirits that scream. You can expel energies that fight, but you cannot cast out what whispers in agreement with your own pain. The unnamed spirit attaches itself not to ritual, but to resonance. It feeds on trauma, on isolation, on minds that once touched heaven and were disappointed. It walks quietly with prophets. It sleeps in the hearts of the gifted. It waits in your silence. The final prophecy of Solomon. The last words Solomon spoke before his death were not about kingdoms or gold. He whispered them to a young scribe. If a man sees all truths but no longer loves the world, he has already heard its voice. How to defend yourself. The only defense, Solomon wrote, is not knowledge, but remembrance. You must remember that you are loved even when unseen. That silence is not emptiness, but potential. That despair is a liar that mimics truth. That God speaks even when he is quiet. And in the center of your being, there must remain a flame, not of power, not of control, but of hope. For the unnamed one cannot stand hope. The unnamed still waits. Every age has its Baal. Every age meets Paimon. But the unnamed, it waits for our time. A time where people no longer believe in right and wrong. The soul is reduced to data. Faith becomes folklore. Meaning is mocked, and silence becomes seductive. This is its playground, and only those who awaken the spirit of Solomon within them can withstand it. Not with magic, but with clarity. One day all seals will break. One day the names will be spoken. One day the final voice will speak. And what happens next will depend on a generation that was warned in whispers. We now enter the last hour of prophecy. This is not just an ending, it is the unveiling. Part 8. The final day of binding. How the 72 will be sealed forever, or reign again. A day will come when all seals will loosen, all sigils will glow, and every hidden name will echo through the air once again. That day is not myth. It is appointment. The clock has already started. When Solomon sealed the last of the 72, he did so knowing it would not last forever. He knew there would come a cycle, a rise, a return, a reckoning. He called it Yom HaChodam, the day of the seal. Not because a seal is made, but because a seal is tested, and we, now, live in that test. The signs of the final binding. According to an apocryphal text found among fragments near the Dead Sea, attributed to the scroll of Bana, the signs of the final binding are the re-emergence of the 72 seals in art, music, media, and architecture. Subtle, unnoticed by the masses, the normalization of possession, not by ritual, but by ideology and culture. Children speaking in forgotten tongues, dream languages resembling Solomonic code, voices in AI that echo the cadence of ancient spirits, global crises that echo specific demon roles, aligning perfectly with their described powers, false messiahs who mirror Solomon's wisdom, but seek only dominion. The fork in the path. The prophecy makes clear there will come a moment, a choice that will define everything. The seals shall crack, but they will not break unless man chooses to wear them. It is not the spirits that escape. It is humans who let them in, through pride, through ritual, through curiosity, through despair. And when all 72 are fully embodied in our world, not as demons, but as systems, ideas, and institutions, the gate will open, and the final presence will step through, the roll of the remnant. But the scroll speaks also of the remnant, a scattered group, awakened not by bloodline, but by discernment. They are artists whose work burns without reason, dreamers who hear ancient voices but refuse to obey, watchers who see patterns in politics, in entertainment, in emotion, quiet warriors whose prayers disrupt invisible empires. They are the descendants, not of Solomon's throne, but of his repentance, and they hold within them the one key that terrifies all 72. The name above all names. Not the name of Solomon. Not the name of power, but the name of the Most High. The final battle will not be loud. It will not look like war. It will look like truth being mocked, purity being hated, simplicity being drowned in noise, light being confused with illusion, love being redefined as self-worship. In that hour, the final binding begins. And the question is not, who has the ring, but Who still remembers the voice behind the ring? What must be done? Solomon left behind a final instruction, encrypted within the Song of Songs, hidden in verses that speak of love, but echo alignment. He wrote, "Do not awaken love before it so desires." Love, in this context, was not romantic. It was the divine flame, the echo of God in man. To awaken that flame in a world covered in shadow is dangerous, but necessary. Each member of the remnant must fast from noise, because demons feed on. Chaos speak truth in secret, because silence protects seeds. Remember the ancient seals, not to use them, but to diffuse them. Walk in humility, because pride is the first invocation. Sing sacred names, because music realigns the soul. Forgive, because the unnamed cannot survive where love abides. Wait in light, because the darkness cannot remain where you stand. The choice before humanity. The prophecy ends with two possible endings. Ending 1. The reign of the 72. The seals are worn as jewelry. The rituals become entertainment. The scrolls are turned into memes. The unnamed one becomes the new god. Humanity becomes what it once feared. Ending 2. The final binding. The remnant awakens. The true ring within is activated. Each demon is not destroyed, but transmuted. The scroll is sealed, not in a jar, but in a generation's heart. The name of the Most High is spoken, not in fear, but in fire, and the world breathes again. This is not mythology. This is memory. This is not prophecy. This is preparation. This is not Solomon's story. It is yours. We now unlock the codex beneath the scroll, the map behind the myth, the hidden geometry of the 72. Part 9, bonus section. The secret meanings behind each demon symbol and the hidden map of the 72. The spirits do not move in chaos. They follow a map, and those who learn to read it begin to see them everywhere. The sigils are not just marks, they are coordinates. Each of the 72 demons listed in the Ars Goetia has a sigil, an abstract design said to represent the essence of the entity. To the untrained eye, they are strange curves and symbols. But to those with the vision of Solomon, the sigils are frequencies captured in visual form, coordinates within a spiritual grid, keys to unlock or block inner gateways, mathematical mirrors of human emotion, and together they form a map. The 72, as a wheel, ancient mystics believed the demons were not randomly listed. They are placed in a precise circle, often called the infernal wheel or the Goetic clock. This wheel is divided by 4 cardinal directions: north, south, east, west, 12 zodiac segments, 9 planetary dominions. Each spirit belongs to a triad, meaning 3 demons form a cluster, sharing energy. These clusters align with times of day, celestial bodies, and emotional states. Thus, every hour of the day is a vulnerable point for a specific demon's energy. Example of triads and symbolic power. Triad of illusion. Baal, Paimon, Vasago aligned with Neptune. Activated by artificial light and deception. Appears in the form of glamour, media manipulation, and false dreams. Their combined sigils, when placed over a pentagram, create a geometric illusion, a mirror within a mirror pattern that distorts perception. Triad of conflict. Amun, Agares, Merax, aligned with Mars, triggered by anger, injustice, and forced control, often seen in moments of war, debate, and riots. Solomon's notes describe this triad as the fire that speaks before it thinks, the secret grid. The Getic tree, hidden in Kabbalistic texts, is an inverted diagram called the shadow tree, reflecting the divine tree of life. Each sphere on the divine tree, called Sephiroth, is countered by a cliffothic shell, a hollow echo. Each of the 72 spirits is believed to inhabit one cliffothic layer. When overlaid with the tree of life, it reveals the paths of temptation. For example, Doth, false knowledge; Paimon's domain, Gamchikoth, obscene wealth; Mammonic spirits, like Valafor Satariel, concealed God; Baal and the spirits of invisibility. This tree becomes a spiritual battlefield, where one climbs toward divinity or descends into illusion. Modern echoes of the sigils. These symbols have resurfaced. Some have been hidden in fashion designs, etched into tech company logos, embedded in music videos, used as branding by pop culture icons who don't even know what they invoke, because the sigils are not just signs. They are living frequencies. Once reproduced, even without belief, they resonate. Solomon's hidden key, the burning pattern. In a fragment found among the Solomonic fragments of Alexandria, it is said that Solomon once lit 72 candles in a circle and placed each sigil beneath its own flame. As the flames flickered, the shadows cast a larger pattern. That pattern, a 12-pointed star, not visible until all were burning in sync. He called it the map of the tempted soul. Each point of the star represented a human virtue, twisted by demonic logic; true virtue, inverted by demon faith; delusion, hope false; promise love possession; courage reckless sin; wisdom, arrogance beauty; narcissism justice revenge temperance; suppression, humil, ity shame joy; mania peace; numbness, truth rel atavism reading. The sigils with your spirit. Solomon taught that when you see a sigil, you must ask not, "What is this?" but, "What inside me vibrates when I look at this?" If a sigil stirs guilt, fear, seduction, pride, despair, then the resonance is active. You are not possessed. You are being observed, and your reaction is the invitation. How to seal a sigil? On the simple way. You do not need a ritual. Solomon taught a prayer to deactivate the resonance of a sigil once seen. By the name above all names, I recognize not the shadow, but the light it obscures. Repeat it aloud while looking at the sigil, not to curse it, but to remind your soul of its center. Because demons feed on disorientation, and every sigil loses power when faced with a spirit rooted in divine clarity. The final map is within all. 72 sigils are already inside you. They are echoes of your wounds, your fears, your desires, your hunger for meaning. Solomon didn't bind them just outside of himself. He bound them within. And so must you. The goal is not to destroy your darkness. It is to know it, name it, and command it with love aligned to the divine will. The map is not meant to lead you to power, but to freedom. Solomon died, but the ring returned. Across empires, continents, and religions, it was seen again. And every time it appeared, the world shifted. We now cross the borders of time to trace the shadow and shimmer of Solomon's ring throughout the centuries. Part 10, The Legend Beyond. Solomon, where the ring appears again in history. Solomon died. The ring disappeared, but not for long. Because when the earth trembles and empires rise unnaturally fast, the ring is always near. The ring never truly vanished. After Solomon's death, the ring was not buried in stone. It was buried in memory, but every few centuries, it reappears. Sometimes for a moment, sometimes in dreams, sometimes in the hands of those who were not meant to hold it. Each time, the world feels a shift, and history is never the same. Appearance: the ring in Babylon, 6th century BCE. After the fall of Jerusalem, Nebuchadnezzar II conquered the city and seized Solomon's temple relics. Among them, a golden artifact wrapped in linen, hidden within a brass box. Babylonian priests claimed it was cursed. It is said the ring was taken into the temple of Marduk, and for 7 days, none dared touch it. On the 8th day, a priest vanished, and the temple roof cracked. Some say the king used the ring to gain insight into future dreams, which tormented him until his mind broke. Daniel, the prophet, wrote cryptically, "The visions of kings are not always from heaven. Some are from the abyss that pretends to shine." Appearance: the ring in Alexandria, 3rd century BCE. A Greek alchemist named Apollonius of Diana spoke of a ring from the east that commands spirits of fire and thought. He built temples without slaves. He healed by whispering words into brass vessels. He vanished at sea. His ship was found drifting near Crete. Carved into the mast were the Hebrew letters. Appearance: 3. The Ring and the Templars, 12th century E. During the Crusades, a knight named Hugues de Payens found something beneath the ruins of the Temple Mount. Some say it was a scroll. Others say it was the ring. Shortly after, the Templars rose in impossible wealth. They built structures using geometry unknown to Christian Europe. They claimed visions and prophetic dreams. But in 1307, on a Friday the 13th, they were arrested. Before his execution, the last Grand Master, Jacques de Molay, whispered, "We never served Baphomet. We sought the ring to hold back what others wished to awaken." Appearance: 4. The Ring and the Moors, 14th century CE. In Andalusia, a Sufi mystic known as Ibn Hadi taught that Solomon's wisdom was encoded in breath and geometry. He wore no jewels, except a black ring with a radiant design. It was said he could stop storms. When he died, his body vanished. Only his ring remained, left on a slab of obsidian. It hummed with heat for 7 days. Local stories say the Spanish Inquisition hunted for the artifact but failed. Appearance fee: the ring and the Renaissance, 15th near 16th century. Leonardo da Vinci's notebooks contain several circular sigils, never explained. One sketch, titled La Voce nella Pietra, the voice in the stone, shows a man reaching toward a glowing ring, 72 symbols encircling him. And above, a Latin phrase, Et si illuminatio tua est, cavene umbra tua regne. And if your light is great, beware lest your shadow rule. Some believe he found a fragment of Solomon's teachings, passed down through secret guilds. Appearance: the ring and the Nazi occult projects, 20th century. Documents recovered from the Ahnenerbe division mention a ritual in 1938 called Project Sonnenring, Sun Ring Project. They believed the ring was not a relic, but a technology, a spiritual machine, a way to merge will and command, a tool to harness non-human intelligence. Several scientists claimed they had seen the ring in visions. The experiment ended when the lead medium burned alive, claiming They are not demons. They are us, without mercy. Appearance: the ring in the digital age, 21st century. In forums buried deep within the dark web, there are files labeled R1NG and 72. They are encrypted with complex alphanumerics based on Solomonic ciphers. Upon decryption, they reveal diagrams of sigils, coordinates to hidden ruins, recordings of non-human voices speaking in Akkadian and Aramaic. One repeating phrase: "He who sees the pattern will recreate the gate." Even in modern AI systems, some engineers report seeing circular patterns form spontaneously in data visualizations, patterns that resemble Gothic sigils. Is it chance, or is the ring adapting into code? The final theory: the ring is a conscious pattern. Some mystics now say, the ring is not an object, it is a presence, a decision, a line between command and communion. It appears not to be wielded, but to test, and every time it returns, the world is faced with the same question. Will we bind the darkness with wisdom? Or will we wear the ring as a crown and become what Solomon once feared? Solomon gave us a map, a ring, and a warning, but he also left one final question, a riddle not of mind, but of soul, and its answer determines who rules the age to come. We now reach the final page of the hidden manuscript, the moment where myth dissolves into mirror. Itom Part 11, Final Chapter. The Last Question. Solomon left humanity. A king's wisdom builds empires. A prophet's fire shapes destinies. But a question, a single question, if it touches the soul, can decide the fate of the world. Question buried. Beneath the throne, at the end of his life, Solomon sat in silence. He had seen angels descend in flame, demons weep under holy command, spirits twist truth into gold temples built from stone, and suffering wisdom twisted into pride, and yet something was missing. A final answer never came. And so, Solomon left not a prophecy, not a command, but a question. He sealed it into a stone and buried it beneath the Holy of Holies. Only the high priest knew the phrase. The lost writings of Ben Sirach, an ancient Hebrew manuscript attributed to Ben Sirach, Solomon's final scribe, records the words his master spoke the night before death. Tell them not how I ruled. Tell them what I could not answer. What is a man when he can command spirits but cannot govern his own desire? The final question, it is not long, it is not complex, but it cuts deeper than any blade forged by man or angel. Do you want power to build or to be seen? Solomon's entire life, his rise, his fall, his repentance, hinged on this question, because every invocation, every decision, every command leads to this fork. The question is alive. This question lives today, in every action. When you speak, do you speak to reveal truth or to gain attention? When you learn, do you seek transformation or validation? When you serve, do you serve from compassion or from control? When you pray, do you seek God or a throne in heaven? Solomon's riddle is not about demons. It's about the human heart, because the line between a king and a tyrant is as thin as a whisper. Why this question matters. Now today, humanity stands on the edge of its own Solomonic moment. We possess unimaginable knowledge. We command invisible forces, digital, political, spiritual. We build systems, that shape minds and realities. We summon energies through media, code, and symbols. And yet, we have never been more fractured, more exhausted, more hungry for meaning. The question returns: do we build or do we conquer? Do we heal or do we impress? Do we speak to free or to be worshipped? The true legacy of Solomon, it is not the temple. It is not the ring. It is not the scrolls, nor the demons, nor the sigils. It is the mirror. Solomon became what we all become when we chase light and find our own shadow waiting at the center. He reached higher than any king, and in falling, showed us the path back up, not by summoning angels, not by commanding spirits, but by answering the question, in secret, in silence, before the altar of the soul. The final page of the secret scroll. According to mystical tradition, the final page of Solomon's last scroll contains only these words, written in celestial Hebrew, burned into vellum that glows under no sun. He who answers the final question with tears, not pride, will seal the spirits forever. He who answers with silence will hear the ring sing again. And he who answers with love will reign not over men, but over himself. So now, it is your turn. You've heard the story. You've walked through the seals. You've felt the weight of the scrolls, and you've seen the faces of the 72. You've looked into the mirror of Solomon's soul. Now one final question remains, not for kings, nor scribes, nor priests, but for you. Why do you seek power? If you can answer this, truly, in the dark of your own spirit, then Solomon's ring has done its work, not by giving you command, but by restoring your clarity. This was the secret history of Solomon, but your history is just beginning. Final appendix: the 72 spirits decoded, and Solomon's spiritual keys for modern souls. Section 1. Solomon's 7 spiritual keys. Solomon's story is not just about demons or angels. It's about the architecture of the soul. These are the keys he discovered, often through suffering. Power without purpose is possession. Every spirit Solomon bound mirrored something in him. If you want authority, ask first, why? If the answer is fear, pride, or emptiness, you are already bound. Silence is the true sword. Solomon was most powerful not when he shouted, but when he listened. The ring responded to silence. Today, silence is rare. That's why most cannot hear. Naming the spirit is step 1. Every destructive pattern begins unnamed. By naming it, pride, lust, fear, you remove its disguise. Command begins with alignment. The ring obeyed only when Solomon was in right alignment with the divine. You cannot command the shadows while serving them in secret. Repentance is not weakness, it's recalibration. His greatest power came after his fall, when he no longer sought to control, but to restore. Repentance is how you realign with heavens. The spirits are always whispering, even today, in your thoughts, habits, media. You don't need to summon them. Your attention is their invitation. The final war is internal. Solomon's legacy is a mirror. You are either building a temple or a throne. Every day, a temple serves the divine. A throne demands worship. Section 2. Applying Solomon's wisdom today. When you're tempted by fast power, ask, what am I really lacking? Desire for influence is often a cry for identity. When you feel spiritually attacked, fast from noise, speak Solomon's prayer. by the name above all names. I am not afraid. I am not blind. I am aligned. Stand still. Do not chase the demon. Confront the door you left open. When you want to awaken the ring, within purify intention, serve before seeking, speak truth when no one is watching. Surrender the outcome. Bind only what you've already overcome in yourself. Section: Remembering the final word. Solomon's life wasn't perfect. It wasn't meant to be. It was a warning wrapped in majesty, a prophecy disguised as history. And in the end, it leaves you not with tools, but a question. Will you rule over shadows, or let them rule over you? Closing benediction. O Lord, grant me not the strength of kings, but the sight of prophets, that I may see the spirits of my thoughts, name them with love, and seal them with truth, that I may build not for glory, but for light. Amen.